No man is more professional than I. I am a 1% man. I am not above or below any man. I'm training my mind. I'm building my body. I'm connecting to my soul. I'm investing my money. Welcome to the 1% Man Podcast. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. I want to welcome you back to the 1% Man Podcast. I got my good friend here with me, Frank Rich. Frank, what's going on, brother?
Hey, good to be here, brother. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, man, I'm definitely excited. So Frank is the Superhuman Life podcast host. Today, we're going to be talking about winning the battle against pornography and renewing your mind. Frank, before we dive in deeper and we start talking, I want to ask you 3 questions so we can get to know you better. Is that cool?
Sounds great, man.
Okay, Frank, question number 1, knowing everything you know right now, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self? What's one piece of advice? Because I know there's a lot that you'll probably tell yourself. What's that one piece of advice that you think you would give your 18-year-old self?
Wow, that's a great question. That's a great place to start too. There are so many answers to that question, and I think it's probably going to be different than what you thought it would be based upon where we're going to take today's conversation. But I think one piece of advice I would tell my 18-year-old self is it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Everything you're going to go through, everything you're going to experience, all the trials, all the tribulations, all the setbacks, all the struggles, it's all going to be okay. You don't have to worry about it. God's got your back in this, and he's got a plan for you in this life. So trust in him, put your faith in him, that he's always by your side and is always there to support you. And no matter what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, what you're going through, it's going to be okay.
Man, I love that. That is super powerful. Question number 2, if you had to be an expert in another space besides helping men break free from porn addiction or any type of addiction and fitness, what would it be and why?
Does it have to be something you touched on I have the background in health and fitness. I spent a decade plus coaching guys. I've helped, thousands of men transform their physique. Prior to all of this, and this is exciting because I just had a podcast conversation on the Superhuman Life about this. I probably would say it'd be entrepreneurship or business building. I mean, sitting deep inside of me, that probably is my biggest passion is creating, creating businesses, creating impact, creating income, going all the way back into, the elementary school days. Like I was a kid that, my mom took me to, Sam's Club. We'd buy the cases of Airhead candies and, I'd flip them on the back of the bus, for a quarter a piece or 5 for $1, setting up, lemonade stands when on busy weekends in the neighborhood, doing landscaping, lawn care stuff when I was a teenager. So I'd probably say, and this is really, this is still in my life's plan. I mean, I'm, specifically doing the addiction coaching now, but following this and things that I've already kind of envisioned myself doing is helping others kind of build and scale their businesses. So I'd say at the deepest core of me, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner. I'm a creator in the world. Nice.
So if you would to pick another expert or another lane would be to be a business coach to really help people build their businesses and come in and really teach people entrepreneurship and how to build it.
If I had to break away from, I guess you call it the addiction or I look at myself more as a, life coach. And I know that's kind of got a glossy definition. But I mean, because, I help the guys, identify the main problem. We remove that. But there's so many layers to a man, to an individual. I try to help them in their health and fitness. I mean, many of my clients, if they're entrepreneurs, like they have some of their best months in the 4 months of us working together. Maybe we're helping them get career advice. So I mean, I love helping, but I guess if I had to put myself in a different lane, it probably would be in entrepreneurship or business coaching.
No, love it, man. Love it too. Yeah. Me as well. I have a passion for copywriting and ads. The one thing I love is that I love looking at a business, the whole system from a high level and saying, okay, where are we going to take customer to the first journey? After they buy, what's the next thing can we offer them? You know what I mean? And how do we pull them along, but also at the same time, helping them. So, hey, if I sold them like, hey, okay, we sold them this mask, right? Okay, now they're covered. Okay, what's the next thing they need, right? Okay, hey, you're probably gonna need gloves. Okay, how do we sell them the gloves? Now we need to sell them hand sanitizer because they have to take off that, right? And then, so to me, it's always about the pulling along of a customer and where they are on the journey. I love like Story Brand. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yeah, it's sitting right back here on my
Right,
shelf.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I
Miller.
love that journey of the customer. So I don't want to get into a rant of that because I bet me and you could have another conversation about that.
Oh, we'll have to do another podcast topic on that,
Exactly,
man. Absolutely.
Exactly. So question number 3, what is one value you believe all men should learn to make it a better place for everyone?
One value all men should learn to make it a better place for everyone. Serving others, serving their partners, whether they're in a marriage, serving their spouse, serving their children, serving their community, and serving the world. I'm a true believer that we all have a specific gift. Sometimes it can be multiple gifts, but I do believe that there is a purpose for every single one of us, and those gifts are resting inside of us. And it is our job, it is our purpose in the world to identify what that gift is, and then offer it to the world in a manner of service. I feel so many people get wrapped up in what's in it for me. How can I get something out of this? Me. I mean, they kind of see that manifesting in the world today. So I think if everybody began to realize, like, I have a set of skills, whether it's copywriting, whether it's design, whether it's just being the best customer service person in the world, the best cashier because you have a smiley, you have a friendly face, and you like to talk to people, make their days feel better. That in a way is a way of service. I think if everybody, and men in particular, looked at themselves as servants to the world, to their families and to their communities, we would see a lot of the world's problems go away.
Man, totally agree with you. I believe men are truly leaders. And the number one thing a leader has to do is service people. Servant leadership is the number one thing all across the board. Me and my mentor actually just had a conversation about that today. And we were talking about how, hey, you have to serve. You know what I mean? Like, hey, Bertrand, what's your next level of service look like? So yeah. I totally agree with you, man.
All men are called to be leaders. Not all men step up to the leadership, though.
I can actually agree with that. I think all men are called to leadership, but not all men step up to that. But I feel like we probably could like go into so many rabbit holes, me and you, because we would have conversations back and forth. But I definitely want to keep it on track though today. So let's talk about this, winning the battle against pornography, right? And then we're gonna talk about renewing your mind. But first, let's talk about this. So let's understand this. So what is pornography? I think we should first define what it is, right? So we're all on the same page, right? How would you define what pornography is or porn?
That's a great question. And it's funny because I was talking about this earlier today with a group of friends. William Shuthers, the author of Wired for Intimacy, has a great definition of this, and I can't recall it specifically off the top of my head, but it is materials, whether they're imagery, drawings, video, that puts others in a way that they're looked at in a lustful way. And maybe that's not the best way for me to define it. I think where a lot of my work goes, and I think probably where we'll really take today's conversation is the problem that we're seeing in the world today, because porn in general has been around for as long as mankind. I mean, you can go back into ancient times, you can go back into caves and see drawings of what some would consider pornographic images. And then you had obviously, in the 60s and 70s, you kind of had the rise of Playboy and kind of that whole culture. Yes, under the classic definition, would that be defined as pornography? Absolutely. Even if you're the one that read it, you read the magazine for the articles or whatever, people used to say. I think where the problem really, really arises, and where I really try to put my focus on, is on the internet streaming pornography. It's this infinite supply. It's this where I can go onto a site such as Pornhub or any of these other sites out there, and there's enough material for me to spend 65 to 70 years continuous viewership. I mean, the millions of hours of internet streaming hardcore graphic material, because it's not just watching the activity, it's understanding that once you kind of fall down this and you go down this rabbit hole, the way that the brain works, like, you're just going to need to go deeper and deeper, more hardcore, more graphics. So that's a great question. What is the definition of pornography? I think I answered it, but I would say probably the bigger problem arises in today's world with this internet streaming, where there's just this infinite supply of hardcore graphic, and you can't even, you don't even know at this point, like, is it consensual, what's going on behind the scenes? And I don't want to, I don't want to go too off track here with this answer. So I hope I answered. I don't know if I did a great job there.
No, I think you did. I think you did do a great job. I think one thing is that, because I think the one thing, before we can ever talk about anything, you always want to be on the same track of everything, right? And I've been trying to get better at being interviewer. So I'm like, okay, man, before we talk about something, let's both get on the same page about what it is. And I think we're both on the same page, where it's graphic material that causes a man to be like, oh, you know what? Puts you in a state of like lust, like I want that, I need that, right? You're craving it. It's almost like, I always think about it as like one of those, like a monster just drooling at the gums, you know what I mean? Like, it is just like earring over you, you know what I mean? That's the way I see porn. And it's just, and it leeches on you, and as you try to get away, it just turns up another corner, you know what I mean? And everything you're doing, it's always there. So that's the way I see it. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I know we're going to get into some of the renewing of the mind stuff. And I mean, the reason why, I bring up the, the streaming, hardcore materials, because in the neuroscience field, in the world of studying the brain, this internet streaming, what we have, readily available in our smartphones, tablets, internet, 24 hours a day, children are walking around from the ages of 8 years old with access to this. It's what's known as a supernormal stimulus in the neuroscience world, basically meaning that there's nothing in the natural world. There's nothing that you're going to get from walking outside. There's nothing that I'm going to get from having a conversation with you that activates and stimulates the brain in which the way that pornography, internet streaming pornography does. The only thing comparable to it is hardcore high dopaminergic drugs, cocaine, methamphetamines, these drugs that turn on that dopamine system in the brain. So that's where, I try to focus a lot of my work, is understanding how what we look at, from the first or second time of consuming it, has this high level of stimulus effect in the brain, and then it alters your brain's baseline. So now you're struggling with, like, okay, if I'm ever going to get that same sense of feeling, I'm going to need to go to a higher level of dosage. And it can be just consuming it more frequently, or exploring more hardcore graphic genres. And that's when you kind of get into, some dangerous places.
Yeah, true. Definitely so. So let me ask, why is porn a huge battle for the new age man? Why is this, especially like this, because you emphasize this internet streaming, right? So why is that such a huge battle for us as men?
Yeah, well, I mean, in addition to what I just said right there, how it literally hijacks your reward center, I would say the bigger problem is the age of exposure, where young boys, not even men, young boys are getting exposed to it. So the average age right now of first time being exposed to pornography is, I believe it's 11 years old. And that number is drastically declining just with the rise of cell phone technology. Kids literally getting smartphones from the ages of 6 and 7. You don't really need to go looking for it anymore. It's going to find you. So I think understanding that they're getting exposed to basically a drug in their brain at a very young, ripe age. I mean, imagine if your 11 or 12-year-old child was doing cocaine, how would that impact their development? Okay, so if we know that the male brain isn't fully developed until the age of 28, well, he's not even halfway there through full brain development by the age of 11. So he's got 17 more years of development in his brain. So we're getting exposed to it at a much younger age. I mean, for me, my exposure to pornography was at 4 or 5 years old, but I'm a 37-year-old man now. So this is going back into the days of like Hustler magazines, and then when I was 15, 16, we had dial-up internet. Not the same thing. It would take minutes to even download an image. By the time the image was done being downloaded, I had already masturbated and I was done with it. So I wasn't, I wasn't falling into these cycles where I can just watch hours and hours and hours. So I think what I said as far as how it hijacks our brain's reward system, but then also the fact that young boys, not even young men, are getting exposed to it at such a young, ripe, unprepared age. So they're getting exposed to it. Parents don't understand because it's a taboo subject. Nobody wants to talk about it. They want to think that their little Johnny or their little Billy or whatever is the greatest angel in the world. And that's not going to happen to him. Listen, if there's any parents listening to this right now, there will come a point in your life where your child's eyes see something that their brain is not yet developed to handle. And it's your responsibility as the parents to be on the forefront of that. You got to have the conversation to warn them. And it can't be done in a, you're going to be a bad person if you look at this. Like, you can't guilt them and shame them before they've even done anything. You have to have the conversation in a way of like, just as you would talk to them about drugs. And I think, once again, this is where I try to take a lot of my content, a lot of the things that I put out into the world is a ways I don't want to make anybody feel bad about it. You know, I was addicted to porn for 20 plus years. How can I shame anybody? You know, I was the worst of the worst in it. But I've done enough, you know, research on it now. I've had enough conversations with high level neuroscientists, professors, you know, I've done enough, you know, work now in their addiction space to understand that this is a danger to our young men. It's a danger to our young boys. And whatever happens to young boys, it eventually happens to men, and whatever happens to men will affect the women. And when you affect the men and the women of the world, then you obviously, you can kind of just see where that's going to lead you to.
Yeah, that trickle effect of society gets down to as well. And so I think something that we can really pull away is that it's not like how this is going to happen, right? It's not that if it's going to happen, it's like, hey, when this happens, how are we going to combat this, right? So, I mean, and I know a lot of our listeners are men, right? So I want to talk to, so most men would be like, but you know, I'm not addicted, right? Most of them be like, hey, look, I'm not addicted. I just kind of watch it. I sometimes watch it just to go to sleep, kind of helps me sleep by, you know, jerk off, boom, masturbate, go to sleep. I'm good. Is that healthy? You know what I mean? Would you consider that healthy? Would you consider that addict? Does he need help? Should he stop? Or is he falling down the trap of, hey, I'm not addicted, but he truly is?
Yeah, let's just take apart what you said there, though. So if a guy does say, and you know, it's and this is the thing, I don't really like this word addiction. You know, for one, you know, in the clinical world, like, porn is still not even recognized with all the brain studies, with all the research supporting how it hijacks the brain. If you look at the DSM-5, which is kind of like the clinical reference guide for what is an addiction, it's still not yet in there. And so this, you obviously get some pushback. You even get some pushback from people in the professional space, you know, therapists and even some psychologists will say, oh, it's not a true addiction. And that's false, because there's enough research supporting it. And once again, let's just unpack what you said there. So you said the guy is going to say, I'm not addicted, yet I need this to make myself sleep better.
Yeah. So like once in a while, like I have a friend, like we were talking about this before the show, and he was like, yeah, you know, I kind of watch sometimes just to sleep.
Okay, but why can't you go to sleep? Like, why do you need a crutch to go to sleep? Like, you should just fall asleep. Like, you don't need a high level stimulus. So I guess anybody that says, oh, I'm not addicted, my challenge is for you to stop for 90 days. And then come back to me in 90 days and tell me these two things. A, did you relapse? Because 95% of the men that attempt at doing it their first time fail. So even though they don't believe that it is an addiction, try to go without it for 90 days. And then if you can't stop, then you know, yes, that is an addiction, because you didn't have enough willpower, or you just gave into the temptations. And in my definition of addiction, that would define an addiction. So stop. And if you can't, okay, then we can address that in a second, you know, later on, once you've had that relapse. And secondly, if you stopped and you did make it 90 days, did your life improve? And once again, the answer to that is always going to be yes. Your life will always improve once you remove it out of your life. So I don't buy that. I don't buy people that push back is, oh, I'm only doing it every once in a while. Oh, I need it to fall asleep. And well, if you need something to fall asleep, that means like if you need to take a sleeping pill every night to help you fall asleep, you're addicted to sleeping pills. If you need to have caffeine in the morning, every morning to wake up, you're addicted to caffeine. If you need to have a cigarette after you eat dinner, you're addicted to tobacco. You know what I mean? So if you say I need something, that is addiction. No ifs and or buts about it. So I think, you know, like I said, attempt to stop. If you can't, because you relapsed, because you gave into the temptation, brother, you're addicted, face it. And then if you did make it 90 days, report back to me and tell me that your life didn't improve. So once you've gotten aware of how better your life is, then you realize that, hey, I can actually go without this and my life is so much better.
I love what you said, and I want to switch a little bit. I want to talk more about like, hey, so what are? Let me paint the picture for you, right? So assuming that, hey, this man is like, hey, look, I'm addicted. He knows he's addicted. He is trying to, he's saying, okay, what's the first step that he needs to take that now that he's like, hey, look, I'm addicted. I know I am. I know I need to get help. I need to overcome this. He notices that, hey, this is having some negative consequences in his life. What's the first step that he needs to take to be able to be like, okay, let me win the battle. Let me start walking away from it, start walking to life instead of walking to point. So how does he do that?
Yeah, I think truly, truly committing, like deciding that no matter what, I'm going to remove this. I do believe in, call it, kind of the Tony Robbins teachings, like the power of this. Power of decision. Decision isn't actually a decision until an action has been taken. So you can have all the internal dialogue. I'm going to quit. I need to quit. I need to stop. Da, 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 da. Not until the moment that you say I'm ready, and then an action is taken. Now, what that action is, I think that's where we can maybe give a little bit of advice here. I believe in the first thing that you probably need to do is you need to have a conversation with somebody about it. You will not go, if you're truly in that guy's situation where he's identified that, hey, this is, it's impacting my life in a negative way. I'm ready to get out of it. You got to recruit some help. You got to get some accountability. You got to get somebody else in your corner. You can talk about it from a biblical standpoint, confessions of your sins. I don't like to really go down that path a lot. Let's just talk about it from a practical standpoint, like just having the conversation, just getting it off of your chest to another individual. Now, how do you figure out who that individual is? Well, they got to be safe. It's got to be somebody that you truly trust and is not going to judge you. It's got to be somebody that, is knowledgeable maybe, and somebody that you respect because they're going to now hold you to a level of accountability. Now that can be a therapist, it can be a counselor, it can be a coach, it can be a pastor, it can be somebody in your life that you look at as a mentor. But once again, it has to have a layer of respect to where I'm going to tell them this and then I'm going to trust in them to hold me accountable. And they got to be bought into it as well. This is why it's not best to really, tell like your best friend, what skin in the game does your best friend? Yeah, he cares about you. You guys hang out. You have great time when you're together. But is he really invested in the quality of your life? Now, chances are, hopefully you do have some people like that in your life that you call friends. But I still would say you probably want to look at like somebody that could serve as like a mentor, whether that's, like I said, therapist, coach, counselor, pastor, or just a mentor in your life. Once you've had that conversation and you both, have, admitted and committed to going through this, I think the next step is you got to really look at what the negative impact has been. You're aware of, hey, this is a problem. Maybe, maybe this conversation sparked something. Maybe you heard, Gary Wilson's TEDx talk, or maybe you've read a book, or maybe you watched another video. You're like, oh, wow, this is real. You saw some brain imagery. And you're like, okay, this actually is a real thing. We'll take it. Yes, we can prove that from science that it impacts everybody's brain. How has it negatively impacted your personal life? How has it maybe impacted your ability to stay focused at work because, you're up for 3 hours at night when you should be sleeping. So you show up to work late and then you need 6 cups of coffee to get started. And then by the afternoon, you're in ADD mode because you need another hit of dopamine. So you got to, run to the restroom and look at porn. How's it impacted your career? How's it impacted your relationship? Are you actually unable to talk to a woman because you're so ashamed and you're so anxious around other people because you programmed yourself to look at people as objects? So get clear on the negative impact of your life. So admit to the problem, commit to making a change, recruit and identify some level of accountability, coach, mentor, therapist, whatever. And then really look at the negative impact. And once you have that negative impact, it's kind of sitting there like, okay, this is how bad it's really impacted me. Now you have a really deep underlying reason why, because you have to change your behavior. In order to change your behavior, you got to have reasons why you're trying to do this. Oh, I just want to stop looking at porn because it's bad for my brain. Probably not a deep enough reason why, because let's be honest, you're hardwired for it. Masturbating can feel good. You get the short-term release. You've been programmed for instant gratification. But if you could stack in like a real deep reason why am I trying to change my life? And how I like to say that is who is the man that I'm trying to become? Who is the man that I was created to be? Get clear on what, one of the questions you asked me here at the beginning, it's like, what are your gifts to the world? And how is your behavior? How is your habit? How is your, compulsion preventing you from truly embracing those gifts? And once you've gotten clear on that, then I think the rest is just a matter of time to let your brain unwire and rewire.
Man, and give me a top three like negative reasons, like I mean deep negative reasons why men should like what men usually say why they want to quit.
Yeah, I mean, depression, or just just a lack of joy in life because their reward system has been hijacked. Anxiety or kind of social, more social
Yeah,
anxiety.
exactly. They don't
Once
want to do
again,
anything.
yeah, because they're timid around humans, because when you look at porn, you activate a part of your brain that responds to objects. And when you're in, relationships, when you're in community, there's a different part of your brain that is stimulated. So what you're doing is you're programming yourself of the physical form of a human body as an object, not an actual human being. So you begin to develop this social anxiety. So depression or lack of joy, social anxiety, and then probably ADHD or just lack of focus.
Okay, so I like this. So right now we got a guy. He's winning the battle, right? He's focused. He's committed. He's gotten help. He got accountability, right? So that means like that's that. So before we even move on, why is it so hard to do it by yourself, especially against porn? Why is it so hard? Because can't we just like bootstrap it or man up and just be like, you know what, I got this. Like, I'm just gonna do it myself. Why can't we do it ourselves?
Probably because if you're stuck in this, like, and it probably, this probably manifests itself in your life in other areas. I would challenge you that there's a lot of areas in your life where you just don't do the things, you don't keep the promises that you make to yourself. Let's phrase it that way. You you hit snooze. You set out, you say, oh, I'm going to accomplish these 10 things this week, and then you only do 3 of them. You've had this idea to launch this business or record this album or whatever kind of creative skill, like you've always said, if and when I can do this, my life will be better. Well, that's you not keeping the promises that you make to yourself. And although you may identify that like in the real, like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, sitting deep in your unconscious, like, that you are not the person that says that you're not the person that does the things that you say you're going to do. So saying that, oh, I'm going to do this all on my own. No, you're not, because at some point deep inside of there's going to come a situation, there's going to come a trigger, there's going to come a moment in your life where your life is too stressful, where there's just a feelings of emotions, because it's not a black and white. It's not I decide to quit and then I don't deal with any adversity, I don't deal with any struggle, I don't deal with any difficulty. Like, you've been hardwired, you've been programmed, your body like habitually needs this. You've developed neural pathways in your brain that when something happens, this is how I deal with it. Just like this example with the guy that needs porn to go to sleep. Well, what happens when you've had a highly stressful day and you're just laying there and you're like, I can't fall asleep? Well, deep in your unconscious, you're like, just do it, because we know that it works. So I think I think we just need community in general. And a lot of times, knowing that the second thing I said is that social anxiety, you probably don't have a great community of people in and around you. So this is going to really help in developing, that part that I think every person needs in their life: friendships, community, family. And then secondly, I do truly believe that because this is an addiction that has hijacked your brain, I think you actually need a structured system that is actually going to walk you through. Because I believe that quitting porn and then rebooting or the renewing of your brain are two different things. Yeah, you can quit and you can try to white knuckle it for the rest of your life. If you don't actually change the wiring in your brain, if you don't actually develop new neural connections by learning how to develop new pathways, by learning how to set and accomplish goals, by learning how to seek out new challenging things on a daily basis, this is where that reprogramming and the rebooting or renewing of your mind comes into play. So I think you need the community aspect, because we need community and friendships to thrive. But I think you really actually need a structured plan that's going to walk you through the process of rebooting and renewing your mind.
Okay, I definitely love that. So take us through this. Take us through the next section of renewing our mind. Right. So we're winning the battle right now. Right now, we really want to renew our mind. We really want to reprogram ourselves. I think we better say, instead of renewing your mind, be like reprogramming the mind, right? To seek these challenges and to seek these new habits, right? These new neural pathways, right? So take us through again. So what's our first step with renewing our mind and to seek these new challenges, new neural pathways? Are we talking? Is this the part of where fitness comes in, or is this the part where faith comes in?
Yeah, I would say probably would be more of the fitness, and then the faith component is as well. So I think they're both very important, sitting truly at the underlying philosophy of it all. And yeah, renewing or rebuilding or rebooting, I think is more kind of the industry terminology. So I'm going to take it to understanding. Okay, we talked about this reward system. We have this dopamine. We have this dopamine pleasure center. Neuromodulator is actually what it's known as. What this was designed for. A lot of people have it wrong. They think dopamine is like when I hit the goal, I get that feel good chemical, and that's what they identify as dopamine. Dopamine was actually designed as a chemical that is released when you're in the pursuit of the goal. So, use an example of fitness. I want to drop 15 pounds, get a six pack. You don't get a massive dopamine hit when you drop the 15 pounds and get a dopamine hit, or get the six pack. You get the dopamine every day you show up to the gym. Every time you follow the meal plan, you're getting a little hit of dopamine. So how we talked about porn hijacks it because it changes that baseline. So you're actually not getting dopamine at the end of release and ejaculation. You're getting dopamine in the pursuit of the video. So how do we take back control of this dopamine system? We have to set a goal. We have to build a plan or develop an aim for our life. Like we talked about, most guys that are struggling with this, like they're sleeping in, they're snoozing, for an hour a day. They're kind of mindlessly walking through their day. They're not really doing the things that they say they want to do. They're just stuck in their job. Maybe it's, 8 hours a day, but they're not really happy. They show up, the first hour they're, staying at the water cooler. Then they do about 15 minutes of work. Then they go outside for a smoke break. Then by that time it's already lunch. And then once they're done with lunch, they got to, watch porn. Like there's so many people that just kind of live and operate from that place. So I think the first thing you have to do is you have to develop a really big kind of aim or vision for your life. What are some key areas that you can look at improving? And if we did the first part of identifying where porn has impacted us, then we already know where our life needs to improve. So identify a few of those areas and develop goals over the course of 90 days, 6 months, or a year that you could work towards. Once you have those goals, reverse engineer it. Okay, if I want to accomplish X in 1 year, well, what type of habits do I need to be developing today? What type of habits do I need to have in my life tomorrow? What type of habits do I need to be improving upon next week? And I also think, little things such as like beginning to keep the promises that you make to yourself. Don't snooze. Like when the alarm goes off, get up. And when you've gotten up at the alarm, acknowledge yourself. Hey man, like you're doing what you said you're going to do. Make your bed. Make your bed, because it's a win. It's an accomplishment. It's you doing something that is working towards becoming the man that you're trying to become. But sitting at the root of it, like I said, it's developing a vision or an aim for your life, and then reverse engineering that back into a series of habits that you need to develop. And once you begin to develop those habits, then that's how you reprogram, reboot, or reset or renew your mind. And then, yeah, I mean, from a faith, spiritual standpoint, spend some time in the Word, get in Scripture on a daily basis, spend some time in prayer, get plugged into a community, spend some time in worship. I mean, all the kind of spiritual practices that work. What is it? Romans 12:10, I believe, says, don't fall victim to, the world's or something in society, renewing of your mind daily. Like get in the Word every single day. Spend time with the Lord every single day.
Yeah, it's something that I do every day is I run 2 miles every day, do 10 burpees. Like I run a mile, then I do 10 burpees. Then after that, I'll do my lunges. Like I'll do like about for 25 yards, do some lunges and do like a dynamic warm up, then run another mile back, then do like a calisthenic workout every single day. And I can say that dopamine hit that you're talking about is exactly true. I get the dopamine hit twice. After I'm done with my workout, not at the beginning, or during the middle of my workout, right? But when I wake up and I'm like, that feeling, I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to do this. Like, I know I don't want to do this, but I do it besides that feeling. And I think that's really what you're talking about. It's like, look, man, the small wins every day. Like, okay, hey, look, it's to me, I always think about like, man, no one else is doing this right now. I wake up and I'm like, okay, I am the 1% right now, right? Like it's 4 a.m, no one's up, I'm up. Right? There's nobody outside. I'm outside. Oh my, okay, that's a win. I'm running and I'm like, and it's almost like the soundtrack of like seeing like Creed or Rocky playing, and then you're running. You know what I mean? You know how you're in the gym early, right? Like I bet for you when you're about to hit a max on squat, and you're like, okay, and you go all the way down, all the way up, right? But when you're at the bottom, you're like, I don't know if this shit's gonna go up, and then it goes up, and you're just like, fuck yeah, like I'm the man. and that's when you get the dopamine hit, right? Like that's the pursuit because you're not really at your goal yet, right? You're not really that's not what you wanted. You just wanted to squat there, but that's like the daily action. And then the mega action is like you just know that okay, I'm strategically getting to where I want to go because I'm doing this. And I think that's what you're saying, right? Am I getting
you? No, 100% spot on. I mean, standing right over here, over my corner or over my shoulder is a couple bodybuilding trophies. I'll be honest, the night of those shows, they weren't pleasurable. They weren't good at all. Like I actually, because I never really won I never won first place. I competed at a moderately high level, but I never was the ultimate champion. And I interviewed Steve Weatherford, NFL Super Bowl champion, and he shares this story about, his entire life. He pursued this greatness. He pursued this goal. And there he is, Super Bowl champion, holding up the Lombardi trophy. And in that moment, he's like, this is it. Like he was waiting for this feeling of like massive like sensation, but he wasn't aware that everything that he had done along that process was him actually developing and shaping our mind. I think, when we can really understand, how does goal setting work? How does the brain actually reward us? And it's not in that accomplishment. This is why, you see actors, you see highly successful people worth hundreds of millions of dollars take their own life. And people look at that as like, how can this happen? This person had it all because they lost the meaning of this life. This meaning, like we went back to the beginning, is to find your gifts, find your goals, and then show up every day to continue to improve yourself. It's not about winning the Oscar. It's not about making $1 million. It's who am I becoming in that process?
Exactly. I love the process of training. Right. So for me, like, and I'll share this, man, I stopped watching porn probably like 6 months ago, something like that. And for me to feel that, right, I said, you know what, something that even when I was depressed and I was like suicidal, I started working out, and that's what brought me out of it. And I said, if I could just get it, not if I could, but when I get back to that point where I just fall in love with the process of working out, right? I'm not really looking to get the ultimate, like everyone wants the muscle and all that. I'm like, no, I want the energy that comes from working out, right? I want the satisfaction of knowing that when I wake up in the morning and you look at me, the difference between me and you is like I already crushed my workout. I worked the whole day before you even got up. You know what I mean? You got up, you hit the button, right? And you snooze. I already got up. I worked the whole day already. And in a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4, 5, 6 months, it's not going to add up. But by year 2, year 3, year 4, when you're fat and you're lazy and you can't accomplish the goals that you want to accomplish, and I have energy that's going to last me, like that's what gets me going. And I feel like when I shoot for that, that's how I easily can say, you know what, point's not going to help me. You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I want to acknowledge you because there's something that's really, jumping out at me here. It's your self-talk, the way that you speak to and about yourself really shows that you've done a significant amount of work and you are super aware and conscious of the words that we use, not just the words that we speak to others, but the words that we speak to and about ourselves. And I think there's a point here because men that are typically at the point of realization that this is a problem, they've already tried and failed multiple times. So they feel defeated. They feel like they're riddled with guilt and shame and all these kind of internal emotions of like, there's something truly wrong with me. We have to begin to get aware of the words that we speak about and to ourselves. Just like you said, when you're up in the morning and you're doing that workout, it's like you're acknowledging yourself in the moment that you're doing something that nobody else is willing to do. Once you've completed it, you're acknowledging yourself that you've done something that nobody else is willing to do. Even when you said the thing like, not if I stop, but when I stop this, it's like just a small shift in the words that we use. So I think this gets back to, okay, how can this be a takeaway for somebody? Get past the guilt and shame, because this is a problem. We address it from a societal standpoint. There's not clear awareness on the actual dangers of this. That's why I'm so passionate about bringing this message to the world, is because we need to begin to understand that it's not just a harmless activity that, oh, boys are exploring their kind of sexual behavior and this and that. That's not the case. So if you were young and you got exposed to it and nobody maybe warned you about it, that's not your fault. It's okay. Once you're aware about it though, now it's your responsibility. So it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And if you can shift it from I'm I'm guilty. I've done this, I've done that, to, you know what, I got caught up in something that, you know, maybe wasn't presented to me. It's not my fault, but I'm taking ownership of it right now. And like I said, begin to acknowledge yourself for those small little victories. When you get up in the morning and you didn't hit the snooze button, acknowledge yourself. You're starting to do the things that are going to shape you into the man that you're trying to become.
Now, what do those small victories do for us as men? Because I think, what's the impact of those long term? Because I mean, for me, I know personally, like, my confidence is boosting and stuff like that. But what do those small victories do for men? Besides maybe confidence, does confidence go up, or what else goes up? What happens to us?
Yeah, no, it definitely improves your self-confidence. You know, Ed Mylett is a great mentor of mine, you know, from a virtual standpoint. You know, his classic line is your self-confidence is directly tied to your ability to keep the promises that you make to yourself. So yes, you're gonna reset your self-confidence by having those small little victories. Number two is, the more times you seek out challenges just on your own kind of like willingness, then when life's challenges face you, because here's the thing, like this life is not easy. You know, whether you're 25, 35, 45, you have years, decades ahead of you of struggle, of adversity, of challenges, if you're going to actually live a meaningful life. If you're just going to sit by the wayside and waste your life away, you're probably not listening to a podcast. So I'm speaking hopefully to the right people here. If you're pursuing something more meaningful in your life, you're pursuing becoming a better person, you're going to be faced with challenges, whether it's launching a business. It's not going to go perfect right out of the gate. Trying to launch a podcast, you're going to get set with a lot of resistance. Why am I doing this? So-and-so's got 100 million downloads and I'm getting a couple hundred. Like there's this internal battle. You know, I interviewed Stephen Pressfield, who's, you know, one of the greatest novelists of all time. And he talks about this resistance with a capital R. This is when we try to go do something, like there's this force working against us. But if you can willingly seek out and do hard things and acknowledge yourself for doing it, then when you're faced with those hard things, just in life situations, you are prepared, because you know, hey, when something hard comes, like I have the strength to work through it. And you also enjoy it because you understand that when I work through this challenge, that's me, you know, shaping myself, developing the habits, and I'm going to get the feel-good chemicals in pursuing that. So by seeking hard things, you know, this is why I do a cold shower. I do a 30-minute sauna and cold shower every single morning, and I have for the last 18 months, because it's me willingly doing something that's uncomfortable every single morning. That way, when, you know, I'm working in the business, or I'm at the gym, or whatever it is I'm trying to do, it's like, oh, this is easy. Because just like you said, I'm up at 4:19. So by 7, 8, 9 a.m. in the morning, I've done more than most people have, you know, in their entire day. So yeah, you're shaping your confidence, but you're also developing character. You know, like why is Navy SEALs BUD/S training significantly harder than anything that most SEALs are going to face out in battle? You know, like, yeah, if they're in war and stuff like that, but the everyday life of a SEAL is really not that challenging. But they have to go through BUD/S because they have to test them. They have to weed out the weaker ones. And then they know that the ones that made it through it, these are the ones that when they're faced, you know, barrel to barrel, you know, with the enemy, like they're not going to get timid. They're not going to get scared. It's like, so you got to seek out hard things to develop your character, to develop your willpower, to develop your discipline, to develop your self-confidence. I mean, and those 4 traits right there themselves, like if more men carried those around, like, and actually work towards getting them, once again, we'd see a completely different world right now.
Exactly, man. I'll even touch on this is with Navy SEALs. I know that Stu Smith, he's a SEAL, and he's actually like my trainer online. He told me that it's easy to shoot. Anyone can shoot a weapon. Anyone can carry a rock and all that. But the mentality of a SEAL is that's the hardest thing to train. You know what I mean? Because everything else is all tactical. You can teach somebody how to do all that. Anyone can be taught that. But the mentality, that's something that you can't teach. It's especially SEAL. That's that next level. That's that next level mentality that you got to have. You know what I mean? You carry that for life. So yeah, I'm totally with you. But hey, I want to switch more because I want to talk about your coaching program for men and what is it called? Why is it important for men to join and invest into themselves, into your program? I want to talk about that.
Yeah. So our company is called Rebuilt Recovery, right here with the Phoenix and lion's face. So Rebuilt Recovery, the coaching program in specific, the one that we have available right now, we have a few things working in development, but the core one-on-one coaching program where you work with me directly is Reboot Your Life. So it's built on 3 foundational pillars. It's rebuilding of your body. So that's kind of the fitness component. I spent the last 15 years as a health and fitness coach, transformed thousands of guys' lives through Frank Rich Fitness, in person, mostly online training. So rebuilding your body, rewiring your brain. So this is kind of the neuroscience realm of it. So we understand kind of how the brain works, helping you set goals, helping you develop a vision for your life, helping you seek out and do hard things, help you, develop a practice of gratitude, and then reshaping of your heart. So I touched on a little bit how porn, reshapes the way that you look at people. I mean, most men that consume porn on a regular basis will admit that, yeah, when I see a girl, I look at her as a sexual object. So we have to begin to kind of reshape how we look at people. So this, we get the guys out and, kind of becoming more service oriented out in the world, doing small random acts of kindness. They get them out in the community, doing service oriented work. At some point, we hopefully get them in kind of a mentorship type of role where they're leading other individuals, whether it's in a small group or taking on a one-on-one individual. So 3 foundational pillars: rebuilding of your body, rewiring your brain, reshaping of your heart. Why is it important for men to invest in themselves? Because we talked about the importance of having accountability at the beginning. You're going to need community. You're going to need accountability. Chances are, if you're at the point where you're realizing that this is a problem you've already tried once and failed. And secondly, I mean, there's classic psychology science showing that when you make an investment in something, your level of confidence in the ability for that to actually work improves. So there's a book called Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini. And in the book, they share a study where they took a group of individuals to a horse track. And what they did is once they approached there, they had the participants just look at a sheet of the horses that were racing. Each one had to select who they thought was going to win the race just based on sheer statistics. Then they took, I believe, half of the participants and took them to like the stand where you place a bet on the horse. And in that, they were able to judge their confidence in the horse's ability to win the race. Once they made that investment, just a small little investment into the actual betting of the horse, their confidence in if they thought their horse was going to win, like drastically went up. This is why you see gambling becomes a massive addiction, because once you put the money down, it's like, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. So just by putting a small investment, you improve your confidence. And then bring it from a scripture standpoint. I mean, somewhere I think it's in Matthew 6, we're told where our treasures go, our heart follows. So by making that small little, financial commitment, you're now buying in it from a belief standpoint in your heart that, hey, I'm actually going to follow through. And I believe in myself that I'm going to do this. No,
love it. So how can men, are they going to apply? Do they shoot your DM? How does this work?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways. I mean, for anybody that is, maybe you're still on the fence and just, perhaps looking for some help. I mean, I do have a free book that I'd love to, give away. So just go to.
We'll definitely put the link to that in the show notes as well.
Yes. So it's the 7-step guide to living life without porn. I mean, it really helps you kind of walk through, I believe, what are the 7 most important steps to beginning to live a life without porn. Identifying the triggers, the weak points, how is it impacted, helping you build a successful plan for your life, and then a few other steps followed up from that. So that's at the 7stepguide.com. So download that book directly from that download page where you'll get the free ebook. You can schedule a call and, jump on a consultation. Or if you want to, if you're on Instagram, follow me on IG at the Superhuman Frank, and send me the word rebuild, REBUILED. And then we can just kind of begin the process. But yeah, we'll do a screening process. We'll kind of see if we align, obviously looking to work with committed individuals. I want to make sure that we kind of align and see things, eye to eye. Like, we just don't accept anybody into the program. It is an investment, it's not expensive, but I do believe that putting skin in the game is a valuable part of it.
No, and here's the 1%, man. I've always believed about investing. I've invested thousands of dollars into myself, and as you are, I bet you have too as well. And I think every time you've made that investment, maybe you made and got the result that you thought you got, but you've always learned something about yourself, and you've always gotten better. So hell yeah. I'm all about.
Yeah, 100%. No, I have multiple coaches in my life still to this day. I mean, somebody that spent, 20 years or 15 years as a fitness professional, I still have a fitness coach. I have somebody that works with me in mobility and movement. I have a business and mindset coach, so yeah, I believe everything I have in my life is a result of being around the right type of people. And yeah, just like you said, it doesn't always go as planned. Here, we're going to remove this problem. I mean, with certainty, like if you commit to the process, like you will remove porn from your life. And then we're going to get clear on what are going to be the big blocks that we're going to remove. And like I told you at the beginning, I mean, yeah, am I a certified addiction recovery coach? Absolutely. Am I health and fitness coach? Absolutely. And however, we want to view that, I really look at more as kind of a life coach. I'm going to help you, wherever you're falling short in life, we're going to work together to build a plan. I mean, we've had guys launch 2 new businesses over the course of 16 weeks. We've had other people, land a job that they never thought they were going to be able to get. We've had people that were already kind of in the online business space, excel and achieve financial goals that they never achieved prior to working together. So we'll really get clear. We've brought marriages back together. So if you're, if you're in a place where this has really impacted your relationship, then that will be our core focus. I mean, it is very individualized. That's why it is one-on-one coaching. There is a curriculum. So we're going to walk you through the curriculum as far as rebooting, renewing, and rebuilding of your body. But the sheer coaching aspect, we're going to get clear on what you need most out of me and then really develop a plan to help us tackle that together.
I love that. I love that, brother. Definitely love that. So Frank Rich, everybody, this has been great. This has been great for real. I appreciate what you've been saying. I appreciate what you've been sharing. Now this is something where before we leave, I call this the last word. This is something where I give the interviewee the ability to share with us a word, a mantra, affirmation, a quote, something that you live by that you want us to take with us after we take these AirPods off or after we stop listening to this, something that we can carry with us for the rest of our lives. What is that last word?
One word?
It could be a phrase, it could be an affirmation, a mantra, whatever it is. But what is the last word? I just call it the last word because it's before we tune out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I have I don't know if you and I talked back and forth on email, but I have a Socrates quote on my email. And I think it's a pretty good way to end this. So no citizen has the right to be an amateur in the manner of physical training. What a disgrace it is for a man to grow old without ever seeing the beauty and strength at which his body is capable. And what I take away from that is our body is the vessel at which we get to experience this life through. We're only given one of them. And this is why I put such a huge emphasis on the fitness side of things. Like you were only given this one body. And if you don't treat it the right way, if you don't take care of it the right way, if you don't develop and build it to its full capabilities, not only are you letting yourself down, but you're once again just tying it back to the world in general. Like you're fully not embracing the gift that you've been given. Love that. And my brother, you heard it here first. Your legacy starts today. Thank you, my friend, for tuning into today's episode. This means so much to us over here at the 1% Man community. Now, we want to extend a hand of gratitude to you. So I have a free gift for you. All you have to do is go to www.the1percentman.com/podcast gift. This is an exclusive gift for listeners that tune into our podcast. So go over there, get that free gift as well. And now I have 2 simple acts of you. 1, hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment and a 5-star review because that helps us to see what you love about the podcast and that helps us to bolster up in the rankings so more people can find us and listen to this pertinent information that we have for men of today's age. Last but not least, I want you to go back and listen to this podcast. Find just one thing that you can implement in your life today so you can move forward. Remember, progress over perfection. And till next time, my friend, your legacy starts today.